This is the Bible Ranger, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 love languages, part 2, and these are very important and it's a great weapon against people that are having problems with their marriages, and there's a lot of healing that can happen with these. And I have here with me my wife of 37 years, we'll call her Maddie,
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
and a shout out to Chaplain Kirby for his help. Now, if you don't know the language of your spouse,
You may not be connecting with what your spouse is saying. We all have an innate desire to know we are loved. It starts at birth and continues through adulthood.
so how do we find out? There are 2 ways to do it. It's going to be very simple or very difficult, like my old pastor used to say. So this is the easy way.
You just take an assessment. It took me about 3 minutes. Go to the 5lovelanguages.com.
It took me like 10.
We'll start with physical touch. Remember, it's non-sexual, and that reinforces your presence.
Yes, and it's so important that the very beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, God makes a couple of references about it. That you leave your father and your mother and you cleave to your spouse. So there's a bonding there that happens even away from your father and your mother. And verse 18, it says it's not good for man to be alone. So obviously it's showing more bonding.
Like, for example, if physical touch is your primary language, you really do enjoy the touching of your hands while on a short walk, or maybe while watching TV, you'd like a hand on the lap, or even a quick massage. It says I love you if that's your primary language, physical touch. The next one is words of affirmation, and that's exactly what it means. Anything that's verbal compliments that expresses your love and appreciation.
Now in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 21, it says that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who love it shall benefit from it. Now, you basically speak virtue into your spouse, like saying something
Man,
like,
you're a really great dad. I
"Oh,
really appreciate you, especially saying it in front of the kids. Thank you for cooking. That meal was great. And thank you for working hard for the family. I think it's important to, when you use these words of affirmation, if this is the love language for your spouse, I think it's very important to be genuine and be very sincere. So focusing on their strengths.
yes." And sometimes you thinking like, I have nothing positive to say. Well, like you said, honey,
Yeah,
look for something that is truthful,
of course.
even as simple as, man, you
Yeah.
smell good after taking your bath, something, right?
Okay.
And so these words are very important. If you say something positive, you instill virtue in them, while if you say something negative, it builds walls in the relationship.
Distrust and
And
hatred.
exactly.
Also, I think for those who have this words of affirmation, I think that when you say the negative words, it really impacts this person because obviously their love languages, they want to be affirmed.
Yep.
So if your love language is quality time, you really like that focus and undivided attention that's spent together.
Yes. In Mark chapter 3, verse 14, Jesus ordained 12 disciples, right? And then it says in the Bible that they should be with him, with Jesus. He spent time with them more than anybody else because he had many other disciples, but those 12 he spent the most time with. Because time is our greatest resource. Even when you go to work, you're trading your skills and your time for the money, right? So we got to give sacrificially our time to your spouses.
It's very important that you said sacrificially. So sometimes we have such busy lives that we sometimes have to schedule time in for our spouse. And it is a sacrifice that's showing that you love your spouse.
Yeah. Sometimes you have like a double thing like of these
You mean like
languages.
a primary and a secondary?
Yes, yes, like up here. I mean, they're touching and yet they're spending time together. Now,
Right. That's
look,
like double brownie points. I
yeah,
like that.
and look at this little poor guy here. They got him shopping with his wife.
Wow. That's a lot of love for sure.
Yeah.
Ask your spouse for what they like to do as the quality time. It's you may be thinking, I want to go to the movies, but remember that that person's love language is quality time. They may enjoy just walking the road. The next one is acts of service. It's any act that eases the burden of responsibility.
Yes. In the book of First John, chapter 3, verse 18, in the Bible it says, like, let our love not be in words, and I put the words only in there, but in deeds and in truth. So as a Christian, we don't want to just act like a Christian. I mean, just say you're a Christian. You want to act like a Christian by doing good deeds. Well, the same thing with your spouse. You want to also do things for your spouse, and which might not be the easiest thing in the world.
For sure. When I think of acts of service, I think of action, right? Action.
Yes.
So well, not to belittle words of affirmation, but acts of service means action to me. So, ask your spouse for a list of 5 things that speaks their language, like doing the laundry or washing dishes. Can I vacuum for you? I'd love to vacuum for you.
Yes. Now, earlier I said there was an easy way, and it's like taking the test. Okay. Now, this is the hard way. You have to actually listen to your spouse and watch, like, if you love me, this is what she's going to say if acts of service is her language.
Right.
If you love me, you help me with the
Those
dishes.
dishes,
Exactly.
yes.
If you love me, you vacuum the floor, etc. So you're saying, I'm touching her, I'm loving on her, and she's going,
The dishes are piled up.
Exactly. I can't really feel the love
I don't
until.
feel the love until those dishes are done. If this is your primary language.
Exactly. So there's another thing. Sometimes you'll hear the wife nagging about something, or even the husband nagging about something, and
Thank you for
use
that
that
clarification.
use that as that nagging as a tag. Like, oh, this is what she's talking about. She actually wants me to throw the trash out. And at the same time, if the wife uses wisdom, she says, "Honey, thank you for throwing the trash out. It means a lot to me." And the guy's gonna go like, "Really? It meant that much to you?" And he'll do it again.
Imagine that if yours was words of affirmation. I say, thank you for throwing out that garbage or the trash. And you say, I took the trash out. We're both fulfilling our love language.
Exactly.
The last one is giving gifts. For those whose their love language is gifts, it's tangible symbols that reflect your thoughtfulness and efforts. Now, it's important to understand that if this is your love language, it doesn't matter how small. It could be a candy bar at the store, picked it up for my spouse. It really means a lot, means that you were thinking of me. Or it could be a diamond ring. Either or.
In the book of Acts, chapter 20, verse 35, it says, it's more blessed to give than to receive. So that can definitely mean a lot for the spouse.
Definitely.
Now, if you're not sure what to get your spouse,
ask a friend or a family member. But I think it's important to, like you said earlier, what you have to put on your listening skills. For this, you got to put on your eyes and just do an observation of what your spouse likes.
Now, there is a caution to this, okay? Your spouse expects you to know what they want for a gift. That means you had heard her sometime in the past. So the cheat sheet to that is that you ask a friend or a family member that knows your spouse very well. That'll help you out.
How about just seeing what your spouse likes? Belts, accessories, purses, another diamond ring.
But guys don't necessarily have that skill, so you might need a little help with this one. And some of it, after you've done the initial one, you need to listen for the future ones to help her
I have
out.
to say, on a female perspective, if you ask your wife, be careful, because they may think, we've been married X amount of years, you still don't know what I like.
That's what I'm saying about the caution.
Yes.
All right.
Offer the gift of presence. I think you had mentioned earlier about how time is a very valuable commodity. So just the gift of being present is so important.
That's right. Now, above all, the Bible doesn't actually have specifically 5 love languages, but it condenses all of them into one sentence and one verse. And it says Ephesians 5:33.
It says, wives, respect your husbands.
And husbands, love your wives. So this is a bell curve here at the bottom, all this. And from here to here is what most people want, or most people desire. So most men rather have respect over love, while most women rather have love over respect. It doesn't mean they don't like the other. It's just one of them is more primary than the other, correct?
Correct.
All right. So don't say, well, that's not me. Well, like say you might be there and you might be over here. But most people, this is what the Bible, the verse in the Bible says this, and this is correct most of the time for most people.
Now, we're not saying that wives don't want to be respected.
Right. All right. Now there's a weakness in the 5 languages, okay? It's kind of like the kryptonite to the 5 languages, and this is what it is.
We need to know the 5 apologies. Now,
Right.
don't forget to do the 5 love language assessment.
Right? Because if you think about it, if your languages are words of affirmation or gifts or spending time of quality,
Quality time.
and the spouse is upset,
There's not going to be any
there's
love.
there's
accepting.
no love
There's
going
no
through.
love.
Exactly.
And so you're going to need an apology.
Exactly. So that'll be our next lesson. God's love language, John 3:16.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
So we have to be ready to meet our Creator because we don't know when our last day on earth is. So we have to repent, we have to believe, and believe that He died and He rose again on the 3rd day. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the video to the end. Please share it, subscribe, and thumbs up. That helps out a lot. This is the Bible Ranger, and thank you, my wife, Maddie.
You're welcome.
Keeping the Bible simple yet rich in content. Thank you very much.